Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all, reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grew with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the latest and greatest of all with Grew with Portia. And of course, if you love me. So today, everybody, I love to have individuals who have had a unique grief path. Those of you who know my story of losing both my parents in the last 3 years. But I have an individual on today who didn't lose a person. They lost a piece of themselves from going through several different life-altering surgeries to preserve their life. And so today, everybody, I want to introduce Mr. Terry Healy. Terry, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Portia, for having me on your show.
Terry, what an honor it is to have you, because I know there's so many people out there that have been struggling with their own grief journey because of the physical differences that they may have. And I want to have you on to really provide that level of inspiration and reignite that somebody's voice, no matter what they've gone through, can leave a mark on somebody else to help them to get out of that, if you want to call it like prison of life. So,
Yep.
Terry, before we jump into the conversation, I always love to start my conversations with gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, I'm glad you started there because that is my daily practice. So I do it in the morning and I do it at night. I'm grateful today for my health. I'm grateful that I'm happy, that I'm energized. I'm grateful for the beautiful day I see outside, for my family and my wife. Those are the first things that come to mind.
Oh, Terry, that's why we're connected, because gratitude is my superpower. Like, grief really taught me the benefits of gratitude, because I'm a firm believer that gratitude is that life jacket that really keeps you afloat through seasons of grief, through adverse circumstances, when you're confused, when you don't know what the outcome is going to be, but the outcome doesn't seem like it's there because you're stuck in the muck, you
Yep,
know? And Terry, I'm
absolutely.
curious, for our audience who's tuning in, you went through over 30 something surgeries, right? To
Yeah,
preserve your face from a deadly cancer, right? And I'm
right.
curious, Terry, it's been probably quite a few years, not just
Yep.
5, but I won't give away your age because we're 30 fine forever, right? And I'm curious for our audience, what was your grief journey like when you went through these surgeries and looked at the person who you are in the mirror that has changed from the person you may have envisioned would be the same all the time later?
That's a great question. There's a lot to unpack there. So, yeah, I was 21 years old when I experienced this. So appearances matter so much, right, at that age. I went from being what was a homecoming prince in high school to suddenly this guy that I thought looked like the Elephant Man. And so it became really important to me based on my doctors telling me that I could get back to the old Terry to do whatever I could to get there. And I went through surgery after surgery after surgery. Well, there's stories in between that I was fortunate to open myself up to and be inspired by that opened the door to help me realize that that journey was not the journey that was going to take me to the new Terry. I was going to have to rebuild and transform myself into somebody else. And through a series of events, I did that. And to this day, I am so grateful that I cut the cord on surgery and said, I got to focus on rebuilding what's inside instead of what's outside. So yeah, it was a long journey. It was a struggle, and I'm not gonna say that I figured it all out. It took me a long time to figure it out, but fortunately, like I say, because of other people that entered my life and being open to them, I found a new path. And so I'm grateful for that path.
Terry, you brought up, of course, when we're 20, fun, right? We're going out, hanging out with friends. Obviously, you're on the West Coast, so you can go to the beach, whatever the crazy nightlife looks like. I'm
Yep.
curious, Terry, what did it take for you to rebuild that confidence and to still hold the confidence that you have today?
Yeah, so I will tell you, maybe I had a foundation of being self-confident when I was entering my early 20s, before this happened. But I will tell you that I lost most of it and my self-esteem went down the drain. So uh, I figured out that having surgery was not going to help my self-confidence anymore because, first of all, I had no control over it. I couldn't control the outcomes of the surgeries. Fortunately, I woke up and realized I need to work on myself. And so there was a number of things, but I would say that, I talk about my survival kit a lot, right? And I would say that I had a really strong faith that gave me a lot of hope and courage throughout the ordeal. So that was the baseline, right? And then I surrounded myself with positive people that I trusted, and that gave me positive energy. And I'll tell you, the one thing that really helped me to rebuild my confidence was that I was somebody that was very focused and goal oriented. And so fortunately that didn't leave me when I entered this picture of my new life. And I talk a lot about having a singular goal in your personal life, a singular goal in your professional life. It's sort of my philosophy because I feel like when you have too many goals, you don't have any, right? Too many priorities means you don't have any priorities. And so the long story short there is that when I was able to focus on one thing at a time, I was able to conquer and overcome and achieve. And that alone gives you confidence to feel like, man, I did that and that was tough and I didn't know if I could make it. Now I feel even better about myself and I can move on to the next thing on my list with more confidence and belief in yourself, right? It's all about self-belief. So, um, there was a number of other things, positive imaging and visualization, which connects to the positive mindset. I don't like to take a lot of credit for this by myself. There was group therapy. There was other people in my life that entered the picture, and I opened myself up to them. And so those are kind of the core things that really helped me start to rebuild who I was. But I think that I think the other thing is, we talked about gratitude in the beginning, and gratitude is so essential to everyone because there's always a million things to be grateful for. And when you start your day and end your day with gratitude, you're automatically in a better place. Your mindset is improved from where it was 2 minutes ago. And so that just starts to make you feel more confident in and of itself, right? And you start to feel like, man, this isn't so bad. I can do this. So that's my long-winded answer.
No, but you're spot on though, Terry, right? That gratitude piece of when you first wake up, right? Even if you had a day of, I love to use the example of when you're walking down the street and you trip over a banana peel and then you fall on the ground and a bird comes and pecks you in the eye. And then, just all the things, right?
Yeah,
The spiral of all of the unfortunate events, right? But then as you come home that night, you lay your head down that pillow and you're like, thank you for that banana peel that saved me from getting run over by a car, you know?
right.
So we don't always think about how these little setbacks are really a blessing in disguise. And Terry, I'm curious for you. You brought up about faith, and I'm curious, what did it take for you to hold on to your faith and not run away from it, considering that your life had changed? You went from what you mentioned, like the prom king, to now I'm like Quasimodo to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I had a strong foundation. So I was raised that way. And so it was always in me that that I had a strong faith and that I could always rely on it. And that was and I mean this truly, it was a source of hope. And so I had this connection, right? And I would pray a lot, and that was sort of a form of visualization, if you will. I mean, it was a very positive process for me because I felt like I was talking to somebody directly every day. But there were, as I said before, there were events and people that entered my life kind of at the right points. And there was a guy, and I won't tell this story in a too long a fashion, but when I was in the hospital and I was faced with I could die. I am completely disfigured. I've got a flap of tissue connected to my face. I look like the Elephant Man. This man entered my room, and I, he looked like Jesus Christ to me, right? Like this was a guy with these eyes that were intense. He didn't have a big smile on his face, but he was intense. And basically, he came in and he said, "Hey, do you want to pray?" Well, obviously, he had been sent in because I had registered as a Roman Catholic or whatever. So he came in and he didn't know small talk. But anyway, he prayed with us. And then he just grabbed my hand and he said, "Take it away, take it away, take it away." And the intensity of this guy, I'm like, I just had an interaction right there with an angel, this guy. And so a couple weeks later, when I got out of the hospital, I'm like, I want to see if this guy's real. Where does this guy belong? So I actually tracked him down. But here's the beautiful thing. When I tracked him down and told him the impact he had on me and the energy that he gave me, he just looked at me and he said, "I'm glad." And that was pretty much the extent of it. He wasn't looking for compliments. He wasn't looking for a slap on the back. He had a mission and he headed right up the hill back up to UCSF. That's the last time I saw him. But it was meaningful. It was incredibly meaningful. But there was a lot of things like that that happened. And I think it goes to, you touch on it, it's being open, aware, and alert to what's happening around you, because that slip on the banana peel, some people would just discard it as, God, that was unfortunate. But no, no, think about it. Things happen
Yeah.
and they could be life changing at any time.
And Terry, I love that you shared that story about this guy who really just gave you that seed, that implanted seed of everything's going to work out. Just, hold on to your faith. I had a story like that before when I was just really struggling in my life mentally. And I remember I was outside of my job. This was umpteen years ago. And this complete stranger, see, I couldn't track the stranger down. In your case, you could. Me, I could not, because I never even saw what this guy looked like. I just remember I was bawling my eyes out in the parking lot at my job. I forget what it was. Long story short, this guy comes over to me and he puts his arm around me. He said, "I'm going to say a prayer for you." And I was like, "Okay,
Wow.
sure." And he did. And I just remember, kind of like you, Terry, that was an angel, because when I lifted my head up to want to thank him, he was gone.
Yeah.
Nobody else was in the parking lot, but I felt him touch me. And he just had the
Incredible.
softest, most soothing voice. Like, whatever you're going through, God has already worked it out. Don't worry about anything else. I mean, I just remember that. And that was all these
Absolutely.
years ago.
That gives me the goosebumps. That's yeah, it gives me the chills.
Yeah, because it's the same circumstance, right? Like,
Yeah.
we think that a lot of times what we're going through is God is punishing us, right? But there's a bigger message, there's a bigger calling. And Terry, you have also written a book called Wiring Your Life and Workplace for Success. Can you share with our audience about the book? What was the inspiration, and also how can they get a copy?
Yeah, so this new book that's coming out, The Resilience Mindset, it's really about how adversity strengthens us as individuals, as teams, and as leaders by helping us build resilience, gain confidence, and find purpose. And so the book is actually about, so I share my own personal story that we just talked about, but I also profile a number of other people that overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles, came out the other side, transformed, and in a far better place with greater purpose. So I'm really excited about it. It stemmed from speaking engagements where people said, "You talk about all this stuff, but you haven't, in your other book, you don't talk about it. You got to put it in a book." So that's how the book came out. But So it's being released officially on September 9th, and it is available for pre-order now on Amazon and on my website. So yeah.
Well, for our audience, you guys can definitely pre-order it, definitely get you a copy, whatever it is that you want to do. And Terry, is there going to be an audio version?
It's funny. I guess there's still licensing discussions on that. I sort of thought all this would be done, but as I find out that there's different players out there, so there's licensing discussions going on. So I don't know the actual date of that. Right now, it's an ebook and a hardback.
So if there's going to be an audio version, please tell me you're narrating. We have to hear from you.
That's what I have asked for. That yeah, I definitely want to do that. And they don't have to pay me. They don't have to pay talent, right? They can just have me do it.
Yeah, we want to hear from you, like
Yeah,
in your
more
in your
authentic.
own voice. And Terry, I'm curious, like you mentioned that you have a wife. I'm curious, what was that journey like to meet her and to have her as part of your support team?
So it's an amazing story. We met in sort of an odd place. I say odd because the circumstances were strange. It was actually a bar, but I was there after a wedding and we were there early because the wedding had ended early and she came in early with two of her girlfriends. They didn't even live in this area. So it was kind of this weird circumstance, but anyway, we ended up connecting. We had two dates together before the topic of what happened to me even came up in a conversation. So that told me a lot about Sue. She really wasn't concerned about whatever happened to me. She cared about who I was as a person. And so that was really the most significant turning point in my life because here was somebody that just accepted me for who I was. And to this day has never said, hey, you could probably get your nose straightened out a bit, or you get your eye lifted a tad. I could if I wanted to. She's never said that. So pretty special.
No, she saw the golden heart that you had from the beginning, right? Instead of going based on the physicality, she went here, right? Both of you were, at the right place at the right time. Maybe not the conventional place to meet people now. I
Yeah.
don't know. Oh, we're not
Yeah.
gonna go into my dating life. I've got some crazy stories, but that's a whole nother story and a half about online dating and whatever. I'm somebody who prefers to meet someone in person anyway. But I mean, but look at that though. Like I wish more people would approach situations from that lens, right? Instead of what judging a book by its cover type of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, Terry, because I think about places of employment, right? We say that we celebrate differences, but there's still this wall of no, you have to still abide by the, if you want to call it, by the book, or what I like to call the Scotch tape special that we've always had in place for umpteenth years. I'm curious, Terry, how can places of employment really adopt a mindset of celebrating and honoring differences? Because I feel like that's still a hindrance in a lot of
Yeah.
places today.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a number of, so I've got a lot of ideas on this topic, but one of them is just about being inclusive in general, right? I think inclusive environments bring out the best in people. Doesn't matter what your background is, right? You actually want a diverse background. Brings greater ideas. It brings actually greater profitability. I mean, you can talk about studies from McKinsey and Bain and all these guys, they've done the studies. There's proof in the pudding. But I always think that people that have gone through these types of scenarios have a story to tell. And I think it's really important that you create an environment where people have an opportunity to share what makes them unique. And it gives, so this is I used to go to a lot of these big meetings, right, where you'd have, let's say, 50 people in a room. You didn't know half of them because they came from China and they came from Europe and they came from all these other places. So, how do you break the ice? Well, you go around the room and you say, hey, tell me three unique things about yourself. And you can make it fun and say, tell two honest things and one lie. whatever you want to do, but it gives people the opportunity, if they want to share their vulnerabilities, to share what makes them unique. And I think that helps build relationships in a way that it's really difficult to do in a normal environment. But I would also get into, and we don't have to go down this path, but this whole concept of servant leadership, right? Where people that have experienced visible differences can actually be great leaders because they bring more empathy to the table. They bring different perspective to the table. And those kind of things help. They're better able to adapt to change in many cases. And so as leaders, they bring about, they actually have to be people that are a little bit more courageous and share their vulnerabilities. And when you do that, you actually build trust on your teams. You create an environment where people like you and want to follow what you're recommending because they trust you more because you've shared your vulnerabilities. You're not saying, this is the way we're doing it, my way or the highway. This is about bringing everybody's voice to the table, making everybody feel like they're included in the conversation.
And Tara, I love how you reiterated about empathy. I think there's this notion of that you have to continue to wear the Tin Man suit
Yep.
in places of corporate instead of being truly you to the root, because again, it's that this is your role. But aside from the role, I'm still a human, I'm still a
Right.
person. And I think there needs to be more empathetic leadership that is driving companies instead of profit to
Yep.
really keep the workforce healthy and holistic. Well,
Absolutely.
Terry, it has been an honor to have you on the show. For our audience who's tuning in, if they want to connect with you, obviously get a copy of your book, is there a website or social media that they can canvas your journey moving forward?
Yeah, thank you, Portia. So www.terryhealy.com is the best place to go. That's TerryHealy.com. I've got all my social handles on there, but that's where all my events are listed, information about my books, where to get them, but also just, the types of speaking I do and the groups that I talk to and the messages that I share. So yeah, grateful for that. So thanks for allowing me to share that.
Excellent. Well, Terry, before we wrap up today, you shared with us the importance of faith in working through different adverse circumstances, the power of gratitude, right? If you slip on that banana peel and you're late for work, you didn't get hit by the semi, right? And then
Right.
also celebrating and honoring differences and really putting empathetic leadership as the forefront to really keep employees happy, keep them engaged, and also valued. I'm curious, Terry, for our audience today, what piece of advice can you leave with someone today who has maybe walked in your shoes and that knows that deep down inside they have a message, but maybe they just need that little push from somebody else who's been there to help them to start walking in their true path?
Yeah, I mean, I would say spend time in reflection, number one. And that's not a chore. It's actually a gift because it only takes 5 minutes to do it. And it gives you that opportunity to think about what transpired during the course of your day. Obviously, starting with gratitude, but then thinking about what transpired during the course of your day. But then I would say, try to share your vulnerabilities. Find the courage to share your vulnerabilities. That changed my life, truly. Being able to talk to people maybe that aren't your friends and closest allies, but going to a group setting or talking to a therapist and just laying it out, because that's truly liberating, right? And sometimes I'm a big proponent of having a support group of people that you trust and friends and family and all that. But sometimes they will tell you what you want to hear. And so, if you can find the courage to share it with other people, you get tremendous feedback that maybe you've never heard before, which can be, like I said, liberating and life changing and put you potentially on a new path. But journaling and all that kind of stuff, a gratitude journal, all that kind of stuff helps you move toward a new path, a positive path. And we have a choice, right? We can choose to be positive or we can choose not to. It's as simple as that. Just if you choose it, you can make it so. So
Well, that part, you make the choice to either sit in the on the stagnant maggot train, or you get off and you start moving, working through some of the hurt, journaling, right? I'm the person that says find gratitude in the debt that you have because it gave you experiences that you never would have if you couldn't have accumulated it. So
yep,
really, again, that mindset piece. How can you reframe it in some way?
yep.
Well, everybody, that was Terry Healy that you heard from on Grew with Portia. And that concludes another episode, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease.